Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. It is 5:04. First order of business is to act upon the minutes of the Rules Subcommittee meeting on April 5th of 2024. Okay. Okay, to hear and act upon the field permit usage for leagues and or teams consisting of both resident and non-resident. Just to bring everybody up to speed on the last meeting for the full commission, we did make a motion to approve a 95% resident field permit usage, and it didn't pass, so we decided to meet one more time here to see if there's a workaround that we could accommodate Fury and any other teams that might be in this position. Does anybody want to take a stab at it?
Because I wasn't there, what was the main, maybe just the main discussion, because I didn't see minutes yet from that. What were the main discussions?
I was just curious, the minutes were just sent to me.
Okay.
Yes, so I haven't had a chance to review them. And Kelly did have a particularly difficult time, she said, on this topic, so I gotta spend some time going through it. But there's concern about setting precedent because there's a lot of cases in the past, especially youth lacrosse, the football, Pop Warner, a non-resident ruling. There's been a lot of prior requests, and the concern was that, I know my concern was that it was going to potentially open the floodgates for people coming in requesting changes.
Yeah, we've certainly seen that kind of behavior in general.
I know
in times.
Bill had a particular concern of Fairfield residents losing out on teams. He did, and you guys were all there, so if I misspeak, please jump in. But he was saying even if it's one or two potential players, it may be one or two potential players that don't get an opportunity to play if we open this up.
Mm-hmm.
So he was maybe differentiating if there was a situation where all players from Fairfield that wanted to play were given opportunities to play, and then there was more of a business need to bring in players to field teams as opposed to a situation where there were Fairfield players that didn't make the team. Is that sort of the gist of it?
Sorry, run that by me again.
Okay, so on one hand, you would have where during sort of tryouts, that situation where 100% of the Fairfield players that tried out were given the opportunity to join the team, as opposed to, and if they needed extra players, because they didn't have enough, then they bring in a few, as opposed to a situation where outside players are brought in, but there's also Fairfield players that were cut.
Yeah.
That's the differentiator. Okay.
If we were to do the 95% residency and require the nonprofit status, don't we think that would prevent any of the leagues from taking advantage of the situation?
There's a lot of not-for-profits out there. So I don't know about Pop One. I don't know about Fairfield.
They're all nonprofits.
Yeah, I know. So
but I think that what we seem to be missing, or at least in my mind, is we're still catering to 95% of the residents, right? And the irony of it is, in this situation as it pertains to Fury, we're you know, there's 75 girls that are not given the opportunity.
I think you gotta back off of the 95%.
Well, what's the right number?
I don't think there is the right number. And so we've heard you keep referring to the 95%, and that represents, 19 out of 20 Fairfield girls and every team. We get that, but I don't know that there's going to be a resolution that we are going to get comfortable with to put into our rules.
Well,
So-
but we weren't able to vote as a full board, right? How many people were we missing? We're missing Jamie, we were missing David, we were missing.
I think
Chris
that was
there?
it. Chris was there.
Chris was there?
Yeah, that was it, because McKay's
gone.
yeah.
All right.
But again, I don't know that, and I'm not sure if the director will support a rule. And so, as I said during the meeting, I would be more than happy to approve on an exception basis the inclusion of beyond 20% on the team, beyond whatever the number is. If, and use the example of the youngest team for Fury,
Mm-hmm.
if they had 10 and they needed 14, if that's 28.5%, which would exceed the 20% that you were talking about. If they came to us on an exception basis and said, we can't play with 10 players, but we have an opportunity for 4 additional outsiders, can we have that exception? I think that would be more palatable than putting a rule. And I think the other thing, and I did have a conversation with Ellen last week to try and figure out what level of pain they could accept. And as we discussed, they came to us asking for an 86% discount for the fees.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for us to agree and have the minutes go out there that we've accepted an 86% discount to anything.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you approach it a different direction, it's all, semantics and sales, but if you approach it a different direction, meaning that we don't give a discount, but rather we charge a premium for an organization like this, and start from the per head perspective as opposed to the field cost perspective, and said, okay, if you were a 100% Fairfield resident organization, it would be $25 per player for the season. What if we said, okay, you're not going to comply with that, and we can put some other guardrails on this, but you're not going to comply with that, but you have 70 players. Their goal with the 86% discount and the 430 hours of field time was a $6,000 annual fee. That would equate on a 70 player, starting from the other direction, 70 player, that would equate to $86 per player. If you're a resident, it's $25 a player. I'm not suggesting that we necessarily go to a 3.5x multiple of the Fairfield cost, but what if we said you have to pay a premium for this approval of 2x or 3x, $50 per player or $75 per
For
player?
every player or every non-resident?
For every player, because it's an organization. And that does get them fairly close, and it would actually be lower if we did that approach, either $50 or $75. It would be lower than the price, the pain point on the price that they were indicating they could live with. And Ellen, I'm not misspeaking on anything so far.
No, the only thing we didn't really discuss was
When we can get to that, I'm just where we are now. We can get to get to that in a minute, but so far, that's kind of what we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question, which may be what Ellen is going to, but we're gonna have to hold off on, it would be where, if we made the exception, because remember, we don't have to make a rule, because we made an exception for the tennis courts. So we have the ability to make that exception. If we make an exception, as opposed to putting it hard in our rules, we can mold it the way we want. And I think this might be more agreeable to those people who, me for one, who are either on the fence or opposed to the 95% rule. Then the other question would be, where would they fall in the pecking order for securing fields? Because we still weren't talking about a blanket permit, but, and again, I'm gonna ask you, correct me if I'm wrong, you said you could live without a blanket permit if you were at a reasonable location on the pecking order for the fields.
Yeah, yes in a way, I mean, like, so I went back, I was looking back at the website of,
I'm sorry, this is not my subcommittee. Are you okay with Ellen, the public speaking?
Yeah.
Okay.
of just how the order comes in, and I'm wrong, but, so, like, if a camp or a clinic and, if a camp or a clinic comes in and wants a field under, a non-resident, whatever, they're not stuck to that 2-week window that a resident would be stuck to, right? Okay, so yeah, I think from the pecking order standpoint, we would just not want to be stuck to the 2-week window, which I don't think we would be. And we're perfectly fine being behind, obviously, the high schools, being behind FLLGF, and, taking what's available after those. So a blanket permit doesn't necessarily, we don't need that, but we also don't want to have to wait for the 2-week window, because that, again, doesn't really help us plan out accordingly. But we would understand that we could get bumped for the high schools, we could get bumped for, Little League. I think the only thing that we wouldn't want to do is get bumped for like a for-profit, that might fall above us in the line. Does that make sense?
But there are some that meet the residency requirements, so that is a possibility, right? Falcons, Nationals.
Yeah, correct.
Taylor, what do you think on that?
In terms of our office's standpoint, and if this is something that I've echoed before, excuse me, I think the theory, they're a Fairfield-based 501c3. For all intents and purposes, our office supports them becoming formally recognized. We feel very strongly that it should be with 100% residency. We don't support a formally recognized group having non-residents. I think this group, Parks and Rec Commission, set a precedent that an organization with both residents and non-residents like St. Thomas could come before the commission, could request an exception, and could get up to a 50% discount on facility usage fees. So I feel like that precedent was already established. It's just, I spoke with Anthony about this before this meeting today. I wanted to make sure I was very clear on our office's standpoint. He didn't necessarily think that was a viable solution for Fury moving forward. His ultimate goal would be for them to become formally recognized and be 100% Fairfield residents.
I just spoke to Anthony today, and I said this is something that we spoke about, and then I was going to bring up to them. And he, said, okay. He would have to see the language and see what the outcome was, but he wasn't totally opposed to it. So,
To this proposal?
but again, it's, it's our commission, and we're really, really trying not to overburden you and your office.
Yeah, of course.
But,
But at the same time, for me, like, this issue is so much more than just a few players that aren't residents. It's about, like, women in sports, and I think that has, like, been the draw for me. Like, I always wanted to support you guys in some way, but like, that is the kicker for me. So like, that is where I can't, I have to support you guys and I'll find a way to do it.
Thank you.
I mean, for me, the hard part I've had with this is putting something in writing, because I grew up in Fairfield Town Sports, I was part of Little League and travel, and I just know there's a lot of situations that would make it difficult to manage. I also know that in life, there's a lot of different programs, there are rosters put together for lots of different reasons, so I'm fully supportive of an exception process that we as a commission can look at each situation and make a determination like we did for St. Thomas. And I'm absolutely happy to look at Puritan, because to me, there is a difference there. There's a story behind it. And I'd like to make that story part of it, but without putting anything hard and fast in the rules. Because I think we can make it work. And I think as a commission, we can use our sense of empathy and we can reach out and reach a conclusion here that'll work for everybody. And I think we're being very creative in trying to, are we top down, are we bottom up? We want to get to the right spot, but we also owe it to the town to really drive resident programs. And this allows us to not play all of our cards and put it out there and have potentially a battle that we may not be able to win. We've seen that before, where something's hard and fast, and then we're not the ones that are in charge anymore. Somebody else is interpreting our language, and if you keep it on an exception basis, then we have our discussion and we make our decision, and we can support what's really inside our DNA of what we want for the town, and I think we all want it to work.
Yeah, I agree, and I also was thinking about when we made that exception for St. Thomas, was that 2 years ago? So it's not like we're making, right, exactly, like I can't even, I think it was 2 years ago.
It truly has to be
Like,
there has to be a story
and
behind it that makes sense.
sense.
And you want to see the program really try. To me, to have a few non-residents to be able to field a competitive team is reasonable.
So are we saying that $50 a head as an exception is something that we think the commission will support?
Is that what it is?
Because, I mean, Fury came before us with an exception already that didn't even get to a motion.
Yeah.
I mean, they had proposed $14, or, I think it was $14 a head, But are we saying $50 a head is something that the commission will support to let these girls play?
Well, that would be our recommendation.
We didn't say $50
yeah.
because, those are numbers that represent a premium to what the residents are doing. $86 per player at 70 gets to the number at the 86%. So we've bracketed the price point, 25 to 86. So,
well, we did, Galen, we approved 50% discount for St. Thomas, right? So I would imagine we would do it the same for
50% brings their annual fee to $21,500.
Right.
So we're not getting a discount. This approach is a premium. So the St. Thomas isn't, that's not necessarily determining what this is. I'm not saying $50 is not the right number, but,
That's not something that we would come up with? Would that be what your office would come
no,
up
it would
with?
be
Or
something
commission?
we would come up with.
Okay,
With guidance.
okay.
And that's what, we ended up with the St. Thomas. There was a lot of back and forth on that.
Yeah.
Do we have a sort of a ballpark of what sort of the benchmark of the per head cost for someone who is not a resident? I know there's a lot of factors, there's how many players, if you had to take a guess, if if for a totally non-resident team, what they're paying per head, because you don't really charge
I
per
don't
head.
know.
$100 an hour. So it would depend on how many hours they need to
If
take.
taking.
Yeah, I don't know if they had, only because they're not required to provide rosters.
Right.
I don't, you know,
But
something
really
like
just
Olay
like-
that's paying $30,000.
I don't have my
I don't know how to divide that.
Sure. But going back then to the Fury situation, what would their price have been if, what was it?
$100 an hour.
Right.
Times 430 hours, $43,000 is what they were looking at to get the field.
Divided by how many players in the program, like
70.
70? So take that divided by 70, what does that come to? If, on a per head basis?
600 and
614.
So if we do nothing, we don't approve anything, it just goes with it's $600 per head.
the program doesn't exist.
Right. Correct. And so we're talking about now starting at 25 and charging a premium to get somewhere maybe around 50, which is compared to 600, which is obviously not realistic. So we're certainly on the right side of the equation. And I would also want to make sure, to me, more important is field availability than price. I think price we can get close to, and to me, it's getting them on the field and making, but there hasn't been an issue with field availability, right? That's not.
No, I don't think, well, it's interesting, because last year, we've been making a movement to true up the permits for the formally recognized groups, which has freed up pockets of time, for individuals to call in. I feel like last year, for example, Fury was able to have a very targeted approach where all of their coaches were able to call in a short time. So I feel like by working with the formally recognized groups to kind of work to true up their permits, it has created openings and pockets of opportunity for an organization like a Fury or a Falcons or a National to get field space.
But all of these organizations have been using the fields for the last couple of years anyway, and the field availability is there. Not great, but it's okay, right?
Yeah, I think those three organizations were only formally brought to my attention last year.
Right,
So
but they had field, they were using fields last year.
I think that.
Yeah, no, they were.
On a call-in basis, they were only formally recognized recently, those
Right,
two.
on a
Yeah.
call-in basis, yes. So in other words, they were using the fields, and the demand didn't surpass the supply, so we were good. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, can I just remind you guys, I would call in, but also knowing what was available and when, right? So you would know all right, there's nothing on a Monday, or there's no way we're gonna be practicing on a Monday, we might have to practice on Friday that week. You know what I mean? But, I mean, I think I went all of last spring, and there was only one time where I couldn't get a weeknight to practice on, because my schedule dictated, I could only practice on Thursday, and all the kids are booked that Thursday, so.
So if they came before us, if Fury came before us, and I'm just using a hypothetical, requested a $50 per person fee, what kind of guidance can we give them on how they're gonna secure fields? Do they have to do the 2-week call-in? Or would we recognize them, give them the ability to have a partial permit?
Maybe a 4 weeks, we'd have to rely on you for
Yeah, I think.
what's a good compromise.
It'd be hard to say, so I would say potentially a group that had non-residents can book fields in advance, but we require a whole harmless, a certificate of insurance, and then the payment would be up front. I just have never worked with the non-resident group in this way on blankets before, so I don't know, is it just carte blanche, they get unlimited number of hours that are available, or, because I feel like when you're paying by the hours, the groups are very, very specific with what they need.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an interesting point. So I would turn it back to our friends over here. What say you on that question? If we were to, on an exception basis, agree to the premium per person for the season, whether it's 50, whether it's a different number, but then it would give you the ability to book fields without the field usage. Is that 430 number going to become 560, become 600, or is that a number?
I see what you're saying, so.
Because remember, this
Yeah.
exception would be on an
Right,
annual,
understood.
on an annual basis.
So I believe, maybe around the 430-hour number a while ago. And I believe that covered all the practice time plus like an additional friendly here and there. Because like we don't play in regular leagues similar to baseball. Like we're not playing every Sunday doubleheaders, like that's just not how our scheduling works. So yeah, I mean, I think the 430 incorporates what we're looking at. I mean, we'd be perfectly fine with you guys tracking our numbers, and if you see we're going over that, you know, you can call us out on that. I mean, that's the software, I'm sure, would put something like that out. But no, I mean, that's.
I'll just add also that it'll change year to year, because, for example, this season, we have one high school 14U team, and obviously they don't practice or play during the high school season. And next year, we'll have two 14Us that are in high school, so we'll have even less practice next season than with this season, so it'll just change year to year.
In my opinion, if it changes from 430 to 380 to 475, and for legitimate reasons, there happen to be
Another extra team.
another team, you know, mainly physical, you know, all right, that would be understandable. If it was 70 players, the same number, and the number, because you weren't paying on a per hour basis, was 50% more than what we were anticipating, we might reconsider the exception approval the following year, unless there was a really legitimate reason.
That's, we'd be held accountable to that. I mean, that's nothing
That is a reasonable approach. I mean, and like you just said, we don't know how many teams we'll have this year in general, so we won't know until after tryouts in July, and then people sign in August, so.
So obviously, as Bridgie said before, from our conversation, certainly, Dylan's on there on the table, trying to get things through. We're trying to make this work. So.
Do you think the per head is the way to go, or is it a Fairfield-based 501c3 is eligible for a 50% discount on the field rental rate?
50% doesn't get us close to the number, so you're talking about 86%, which was requested.
Right, okay.
And we can't put it out there, we're approving 86% discounts.
Okay, so,
Just my opinion, but, I don't want, when we're in the budget season or, anyone's looking at the overall expenses in the town, even if they're not aware of how we approach this, I don't think everyone wants to see that we're approving 86%.
yeah. We haven't received one request from Jerry this season so far, and we're in mid-May. Where have you been practicing?
We're rule followers, that's why we're here, so we were told not to appeal to these, so.
Yeah, so where have you been, like, having your program?
We found an alternate location.
And our high school team has not been practicing, we've been in high school.
What alternate locations? Are you in Trumbull? Are you in Bridgeport? Are you in private schools? Like, where are you?
We're at the public school.
Ward.
We're a ward.
Public school, yeah,
Okay.
we're paying bills.
Okay. What rate are you following there?
The Fairfield nonprofit rate on their rate schedule,
Which is just what? I don't have it in front of me.
$25 an hour.
So is the guidance we're giving Fury that if they come back to us requesting whatever the number, let's just use 50 for a hypothetical, we feel like that's gonna allow them to get their season started and have the 70 circle residents play in town? Is that the guidance we're giving us?
In addition to a, sort of preferred field availability, somewhere in between.
Is that-
What they request.
Is this type of a motion?
Here, today?
No, full commission.
Well, yeah, they would come in and they would make a request.
But would we have to do that at our next, like, let's say Wednesday's meeting and approve it, and then they would have to come and, it's not gonna
It's
be
not
on
happening
time.
Wednesday.
Okay,
I have the agenda already.
so we're looking at June. Okay.
Correct.
But
But
can they make,
June is acceptable, since you guys are July. That was it. I know.
I'm
unless we have a special meeting?
I mean, honestly, we would have preferred something back in January, I mean, if that's where we're going, but, and we are getting a little bit more into crunch time, in terms of now having an added team coming on, with the high school team no longer playing, we're gonna have a 16, it's getting even harder, to field, to get the number of times that we need, using the accommodations that we've been using right now.
Getting harder, Ellen?
Yeah, well, right, because now we're getting an additional team coming into the, so rather than the 5 teams, we're now gonna have 6 teams
Yeah.
starting probably next week.
The high school season's wrapping up, so.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've been able to, work around it a little bit, but, I mean, if we could ideally get something, even if it's at this point, I would take a 50% discount until July. Using what we already have plus that, using your field, I'd be okay with it, I'm
It
sure.
would just be additional fundraisers and speaking of families about getting additional funds. I mean, we're pretty much operating on nothing, right? I mean, we don't make money, so, we don't have a huge surplus of capital to really draw on. I will also say, as I mentioned before, July is our tryout for next season, so we're getting to crunch time. We have to actually have something we can give prospective families that are coming, to let them know how much it's gonna cost. If we don't know, I mean, it looks terrible for us. And also, how do we tell them we don't know in July, and obviously we have to have materials before July, right? So,
Yeah.
it's coming down to crunch time. I mean, we've actually talked about potentially dissolving Fury if we can't do this, and which would be a huge detriment to the girls that want to play competitively in town, but we have to consider our options, right? So.
Right, I don't see why you wouldn't have an answer by our June meeting.
Is there no way we can get them on the agenda for this week?
Let's finish this and then I'll tell you what we can do with that.
Is the other part about the
No,
June meeting?
there's no way, however.
The June meeting does work for next year, obviously, we would need a decision, or at least need to know what the plans would be, but we would also need it to be like our calendar year, so technically, I guess, our season starts September 1, or like the end of August, we'd be looking to just have something set, for August 15th through August 15th, just so that we can set accordingly, and I know, I think it was Chris too had mentioned in the last meeting, an exception basis, in terms of okay, well, come to us and tell us what teams need the extra players. That doesn't work, because the tryouts come in July, you have to offer spots in July, and most parents are making a decision right then and there.
Yeah.
So if we don't have an answer in June for a year, we can't offer out-of-town kids spots in July. So it would need to come before then.
Okay. We certainly can get it on the agenda for June. And I think it would be, I don't think it would be in anyone's best interest for the request to be a specific dollar amount. I think it should be a request to consider discount, absolutely, we can work on the language, a reduced fee. And then the subcommittee can present, what they think is appropriate for that. I don't think it makes sense for you guys to identify a certain amount. I think, it should be just a request, and then we can fill in the blanks on the request.
The full commission fill in the blank?
Correct. With the recommendation.
Okay. Why can't we get them on the agenda this week?
Let's just, handle one thing at a time.
48 hours.
Because they don't, because
The agenda is, I have the agenda, it's locked. And, Kelly got it to me this afternoon, we made a couple modifications, and she has it, and it's, and so we're not going to, we can't get it to Kelly tomorrow morning, because that's within the 48-hour period. However, if we want to consider even a 50% discount for the remainder of the season, we can consider it in the commission if someone wants to make a motion to add it to the agenda during the meeting. And then, someone has to, then second it. It's got to be a 2/3 vote amongst the commission members, which I do not believe that we have any problem having the commission approve putting it on the agenda
On that night, you mean?
on that night. And I would suggest I would suggest still having it on the June meeting for the next 12 months starting in July. But if we want to consider a discount per hour for the current season, we can put that on the agenda with the 2/3 vote on Wednesday.
Okay, I have a question. Would that be during good of the order? Because I'm gonna be late.
Because you're going to be late,
Yes.
because the order's at the end. How
No,
late are you going to
but
be?
I'll be there for that, probably.
Oh, we could do it during the good of
Okay,
the order.
I'm just making sure,
Yeah.
because my son has a dance concert.
Okay.
Sorry, you're gonna stay till the end, guys.
I got a conflict too.
Oh, okay, there we go. Are you in fifth grade?
Yeah.
Cool, I'll see you there.
Is our June meeting on June 19th? That's the third Wednesday. I'm actually in Denver that day.
June 19th.
Yeah.
A lot of companies have that off now. No, does the town have that off? No.
What is it?
Juneteenth.
It's Juneteenth.
Oh.
Yeah. New holiday.
This is not acknowledged as a new holiday.
I know. I didn't even think about it going to that calendar. Yeah.
I'm in Denver.
I think I'm off too.
I'm not.
I'll be here for the vote. I may have to go. I may be on the mountain, so
Maybe we can get it done Monday. Okay. What's next?
Okay. I'm just looking at the agenda.
For what, Wednesday?
Yeah. There's two items that there will be discussion. But I don't think it'll be a particularly long meeting.
Okay.
So, but yeah, these are not, 95% rule change length of discussions. These are discussions, people are gonna have opinions on them, but, yeah, it shouldn't be that long of a meeting.
we don't have any.
I can always call in, Jim.
Call
He
in.
just like lets me know when we're out.
Don't call in.
Yeah. So, they can call. Is that what you said?
Yeah, but,
Oh, I thought you said,
because I was on the phone.
Yeah. I just.
Like text message?
Yeah. It's calling, you don't get a sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow, so weird.
And,
We did that for so-
Right, and it probably would have been a deciding vote in that, but it probably would have been a deciding vote because he also doesn't see what's happening in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, but,
All right, so we good on that point?
I think we're good.
I think still need to, just think a little bit more on the, field, how we're gonna, and, you know, maybe get some follow-up from you on, how we're gonna do the fields.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
When you say how we're gonna allocate space?
no, how are they gonna call in every, every two
I feel like
weeks
we
in
should, like,
advance, or, cause I don't,
no,
we're not gonna do blanket, but, permanent, but, maybe there's a, as we're coming up with,
So you're saying instead of 2 weeks, 4 weeks?
Or maybe some portion is regularly scheduled through the season, and then another layer is added on, so where they have some consistency. Again, that helps our parents. The more they can have their schedule, the more it helps, and, you know, obviously a lot of Fairfield parents there.
right,
but I wanna be fair to the office as well,
Yeah.
so.
but shouldn't we know what we're gonna say regarding that piece, like, now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I like the 4 weeks thing.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily need,
We
because
don't.
this is the
This
June,
is just
this
for,
is the June
got it,
conversation.
okay. That means we have to meet again, so let's do this
Okay.
right now.
But this is kind of a new, I mean, if you guys wanna keep talking about it and come up with a solution, that's perfectly fine, but,
I mean,
you know, I think we could get together one more time for, you know, a quick
okay,
conversation, and Bill's not here,
okay,
so,
that's fair.
I don't know.
All right, so let's just get through Wednesday, and then we'll do the field stuff later. Okay, we good?
Okay.
Hear and act upon, expanding the hours and dates for dogs permitted on Fairfield beaches. So we received an email at our last meeting, and, basically, he wants to know why beach stickers are enforced from Memorial to Labor Day.
And so, don't feel that you have to be nice.
Yeah, you guys can go.
Thank you,
Put
everyone.
them in dog triggers, do there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll see you virtually.
Thank you.
But why are dogs prohibited from April 1st until October 1st? So can I just say I talked to Bill today? I don't know if Bill is on the line, but I can speak to our conversation about it. And, he actually said he brought it up in a meeting like years and years ago, Board of Selectmen, and people were really unhappy about it. So cute. Oh my God.
Board of Selectmen?
Long time ago, I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, he brought it up, but
okay.
and he received like a lot of feedback, like negative feedback. But, I think he said the main reason is because they need the time to comb the beaches, right? And it's also because people don't pick up after their dogs. And there's a lot more people on the beach. Like, we get really nice days in April and May, so I feel like I just put it on the agenda because it was brought to our attention. We don't have to do anything about it, but that's my take.
They're getting 6 months now, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so what they're asking, they want a 30-day shift, right?
No.
they want it to be,
Sure.
yeah, because this is April 1st, and they would want it the last weekend of,
No, 90 days, almost 90 days shift. From
uh,
April 1st to Memorial Day,
60 days-ish.
and, but also
Oh,
Labor
okay, and then Labor Day,
to
Labor Day.
October 1st.
Yeah, so, and as you know, like on the back end especially, like our September
Because
are so warm and
October,
people
too.
are on the beach. And sometimes it's even more crowded because
Yeah.
you don't need a beach sticker, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
like crazy town. So, I'm not in favor of it. What do you guys think?
The only thought I had was if we did to require dogs on leash to encourage cleanup, I'm not, as much as I'd love to walk my dog early in the morning, I could see maybe go till tax day, give it a couple weeks, but I can beat that. And there's
Right,
enough difference
right.
to make a rule change.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm not really in favor.
You got 6 months.
Yeah.
How many dog parks do we have in town?
No.
Not, they're from the master
Six
plan.
on the master plan.
From 0 to 6, makes so much
Well,
sense.
ideally, I'd rather spend the time preparing.
You can go to Mohegan, you can go, there's one in Westport, there's one in Easton. Yeah, so we don't have to talk about this if we don't want to, and that was really it.
I'm fine with 6 months. They wanted 8, right?
No.
Well, Labor Day to Memorial Day, right? So that's October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Right, because Labor Day would be, or
No,
Labor Day, the last week of
No,
December, or?
no,
Labor
sorry.
Day is the first
Correct.
weekend.
Yeah, so it's 9 months.
Yeah.
Little less than 9 months.
But I kind of hear, but I think at some point, they also were requesting, someone was also requesting 6 to 9 AM all season, all year.
Right.
Right,
And, you know, I know,
Yeah.
we spoke about that, like, no way.
Too much to manage.
Well, because, as you said, not everyone cleans up after their dog.
Yeah.
No.
And as you pointed out,
We
there's a
do
lot of
classes.
people who get there very early in the morning with
So
classes
many
and
families,
stuff.
there's classes going on, and then there's like so many families come down.
and so many dogs are off leash and it creates
Right.
problems.
Yeah, I think it's a liability, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some kids, you know, it's just, adults are just terrified of dogs.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's 6 months.
I,
And as Ira said, I'm a dog lover, and we love walking through the woods because she can run free, and there's a variety of places. But for every one of me, there's someone who doesn't want the dogs.
mhm,
So the 6 months is a nice compromise.
I agree.
But that just stays as is, anything for good of the order? All right, guys, that's it, 5:51.
I'm proud of the team getting